Hello, Lucinda. Welcome to Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to chat with you today. We always have a good time when we talk, and but before we dive into it, I didn't get my jar. We always start with something from the Happy Healthy Caregiver jar to kind of just get us talking on the right notes. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this. If you're up for it, it says. Always remember that your present situation is not your final destination. The best is yet to come.
I love it.
I
I
know.
love it.
Yeah, I think particularly for a young caregiver, which I know is what we're going to be talking about, it's like sometimes you just need to know that this is a whole book of life and this is a chapter of your life potentially and not all defining of everything.
Which is really hard for younger people, I think. I mean, when you're a child, you have no sense of that. When you're in high school, you feel like the world is going to end, when your friend calls you mean.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, I think millennials, like we have a sense that this is not forever, but then you're like, well, I don't want to think about, the death of my loved one. So I don't want to think about that. But at the same time, that's supposed to be, comforting and remind us that we do have a lot ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. It's
So
it's fair though because I think while I love the positive mindset about the chapter, I think it's also important to just recognize that this is a very important chapter in your life as a young person. And there's a lot of things that are happening. You're dating and looking for jobs and trying to build your career and maybe starting a family and
yes.
we need to just recognize that that is also um, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to live your life and be a caregiver. It's a yes and not an either or.
Oh my God. You and your like sound bites, they're so perfect. It's crazy. That is so true because that's the only way to really, I think, really survive caregiving is
Hmm.
for it to be a yes and I also think it is imperative that as a younger caregiver to remember that this is the time that we're supposed to be dating and or getting, not necessarily getting married, but finding a partner and building a family if that's what you want, and working on your career and keeping an identity because you don't want years to go by and have regrets. I mean, that's
No.
just devastating.
Yes. I think one of the things that helped me, Lucinda, is I was older when I became a caregiver, and I'm not a millennial. I'm a proud Gen Xer. But
Yes.
I will say that one of the tidbits that helped me was somebody had told me, I think it was in one of my first support groups I attended, and they said, your mom has already lived this point in her life. She's already done
Yes.
all of these things. It is okay for you to do these things and to take time out for yourself.
Yeah, like they already got to have this whole
Yes.
life. And so it really wouldn't be fair for
Mm-mm.
you to not get to have that in service of them.
Exactly. And to what you said, like live your life without no regrets. Like it's okay. It's Women's History Month too, and I believe this is still going to air in March. And I just want to thank you, Lucinda, for collaborating with me on the Women's History Month post. It was an idea that was brewing in my brain since last year, and I was like, oh, people have these amazing stories about their loved ones, and I want to extract these and share these. And thank
That's
you for
so great.
participating.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing. And I think I totally was like off the wall with my response.
Listen,
But
I love off the wall. I love it.
yes, yeah, me too.
It
Me
would be
too.
boring if we were all the same. No, no, thank you. I want to be all different and embrace our differences.
That's so true. That's so true.
So we'll link to it and all the other amazing things we're going to talk about in the show notes for today's episode. But I have the luxury of knowing you, Lucinda, but there might be some people who still don't know who Lucinda Koza is. So tell us about, first we'll start with your caregiving story and a little bit about that, because that's what brings us all here initially.
Of course. Um, so in 2018, uh, my mother had just gotten married, and my father was also remarried. But I live up here in New Jersey, and my family's in South Carolina. So that's another connection we have. It's the South.
Yeah.
Yes, but because that's where I'm from. But so I was down there for my mother's wedding, and my dad had been having some real issues for a while, but his wife at the time kept telling me that he was just drinking, and he was. I mean, he is an alcoholic. He doesn't drink right now, but he is an alcoholic. And I think I think he knew on some level that drinking so much could mask his symptoms of these strokes that he was having. I think he knew something was really wrong. And I think in many ways he was trying to drink himself to death. And so, because there's the slurred speech and the falling down and like falling out of bed in the middle of the night, and he would have like a black eye, and oh gosh, it was just like, so when I finally saw him face to face after my mom's wedding, it was like I saw a ghost. I was just like, oh my God, it was like an alien. I was like, something's very, very wrong. I have to take him to the ER right now. So by the time, he was seen by, by the time he got the care he needed, he already had extensive brain damage because, he didn't do anything about these strokes, or other people didn't notice enough the symptoms, or they didn't say anything, or the alcohol. And it was very frustrating.
It did a good job masking it, it sounds like.
Yes. So everyone, in the world, be careful. It's just another reason why alcohol is dangerous, and I don't love it. So
I appreciate you bringing it up, because addiction is something that we don't talk about on the show a lot, and caring for someone with an addiction, it adds another layer to everything. Like, addiction is hard enough. Life is hard enough. Then you just start layering this stuff on each other, and it's heavy.
Yes, that is so true, because there's a perceived selfishness. Like, there's almost a sense of like, well, you did this to yourself. Like wanting to say that to my dad, but that's not helpful at all, as his caregiver. But I still can't help but have these like complex feelings of like, you didn't take care of yourself.
Resentment, which I can identify with. I mean, my parents did not struggle with alcohol addiction, but they had food addiction. They were both morbidly obese, and had neglected their own health for for my entire adult life. So I too had resentment about like, you know, damn you for putting us in this situation. And I think that's a very valid feeling to have. It's like, this was controllable. This did not have to be the path for you. And frankly, they could still be alive right now, or, you know, maybe your dad would be in a different situation. And so I think that's very natural. And it's part of the phases of caregiving. It's just this anger and resentment. And it doesn't mean that it goes away and it never comes back. There, it resurfaces. And I think at some point though, and I don't know if you've gotten to this point too, but it's just like you accept it and you're just kind of like, well, that sucks and this is crappy, and but this is where we are, and I love these people, and we're gonna have to like roll up our sleeves and figure out how to move forward from here.
Yes, yes. I think, and that's so interesting because I think I've gotten to that point, and my brother and my sister, you know, aren't able to be there yet because they haven't been participating in the caregiving. So they are really still stuck in this resentment. And even more so because our parents are divorced. And so my dad, you know, didn't have any custody of us. So, which now that doesn't mean he didn't want us, you know, he probably, well, I'm sure that he just did not want to fight my mother because, you know, my mom is wonderful and, you know, we were her life. And I'm sure she was like, don't even, you know, try.
Don't even challenge us. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus he had an affair. So it was, you know how the courts are, especially in the South. I think there's like, you have to find fault in a divorce.
Yeah. It's a mess. It's a messy situation. Has the situation of caring for your dad, has it impacted the relationships that you have with your siblings?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My older brother was like my best friend, like since we were little babies. And I looked up to him so much, like through college. I thought he like could do no wrong. Like I thought he was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was so smart, you know, and when I, you know, called him from the hospital, expecting him to like come save me and like the situation. And I like bumped up against this no, and with no explanation, he was just like, no, I'm not going to fly there. And it was like,
yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yes.
Everybody does
have broke my heart.
Yeah, they do have a different relationship with their parent, but you knew what your relationship with him was, and so
yes,
that was certainly had to be devastating. Is there anything that could happen? Like, what would need to be true? Let's say they were listening, Lucinda, your siblings.
Oh God.
Like, what would need to be true in order to repair your relationship with them, or them to repair the relationship with you, I should say?
Yeah. Oh man. For some reason, I don't want to say that I need an apology because that feels like my first like voice in my head is like, that's weak. You don't need an apology. But that is crap. If I feel like I need an apology, I need an apology or acknowledgement. Like, I realize now, like my brother has said to me a few times that he didn't realize that it was as bad as it was. And I think I need him to say, I realize now that it was really, really bad, that you weren't exaggerating and you weren't acting crazy. And I should have been there for you this whole time. And I'm so sorry that you have had to do this alone and bear this giant responsibility alone, and that you have felt like I've abandoned you.
I
Wow,
hope
that
I hope he hears it, and then like apologize, and then make it, now that you potentially know better, do better. Like what can that look like? Could you, could he plan to come for a visit, every quarter or something, and spend a few days, or give you a break, or help you with something that is a struggle. So I think, I'm not in that situation, which I'm very grateful of. And I don't say that to brag, but I think about like people who are in a solo caregiving situation and don't have the sibling support with their loved ones, and it's heartbreaking.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And even my little sister, it's like she's in her 30s. I shouldn't even be calling her my little sister anymore. That's ridiculous. But it feels that way because,
well, you always have the birth order. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm 50,
yeah,
but I still have my older brothers and my older siblings, and they just keep changing my definition of what old is, by the way, because like
right, of
old is not my
course.
older brother. Like, that's too close. So
Yes.
it's interesting. Like, it's always there, these sibling relationships, and these, some things are consistent. I will say, while I have siblings, there have some that, I've got a brother that needs care. He's got a developmental disability, and my older
Mhm.
brother tends to be a pot stirrer and sometimes makes things worse. And
Ugh.
he's consistent, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, when I look back at my life, like, this is who he has been. So in some ways, like, why expect it to be different?
That's so interesting. And that's interesting because it's like they've always shown up the same way in how we've dealt with our parents, and like our parents' divorce, and especially our dad. It's been because he was kind of absent,
Mm-hmm.
and but he, on that day, when he like abandoned me, that was when he totally stopped being consistent in who he was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the total bizarreness of it. It was like, who are you? Like, what? Who stole your body? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is going on?
Well, people can change and make amends, and that is part of the 12-step program that, with any addiction, it's,
Right.
and so there's a receiving part, and forgiveness is a big piece to all of that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's really admirable, Lucinda, what you're doing. I know that, the roles of parent and child can be so complicated in a caregiving role, because the roles have reversed in some ways, and you've got to take the reins and make decisions and be the enforcer, but yet you're still the child. Like, what has been your challenge in caring for your dad?
Oh my God. Yeah. Definitely that reversal. Especially I think as the daughter, rather than the son. Uh,
I love your little laugh. It's like, oh, it's even worse because we're like princess, right? Like,
yes,
yes.
yes. Like we're like like there are certain conversations and interactions that fathers and daughters, you just don't picture it. And yet it has to happen. And I mean, to be the enforcer, because he already has the soft spot for me as a daughter. And so the caregiving, like loving, compassionate part, that's there.
Mm-hmm.
But since I'm the only, gig in town for him, I also have to tell him, you don't have any money for that thing that you want to do. And you're going to keep arguing with me but I'm going to have to win the argument.
Yeah, you have facts. Sounds like you had the facts.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have the facts. I'm going to have to win the argument because that's the way it has to be. And that's not, typical or whatever of a father-daughter situation.
No.
And so it's like, it's so hard. We've had just such intense conversations, like when I told him and explained to him what his diagnosis was. Like,
what is his diagnosis? What is it?
He has vascular dementia,
Mm.
and he also has Parkinson's. And he has aphasia from the stroke, so he can't speak that well at all.
He's not verbal. Like, have you had to figure out new ways to communicate?
No. Well, I think since I was there since day one of the aphasia, like I'm able to understand what the hell he's trying to say way quicker than anyone else would ever. Because sometimes he can just say one word and that's all he can say. And like after, yes or no questions and like picking up objects and like that's how I can figure out finally what he was trying to say. And it's always like a celebration when we finally get there.
It's hard enough with the dementia and other things, like, and then it's like, well, are we trying to figure out what you're trying to say in this reality or some other type of reality? Like, where are we now? Like, what's the setting and everything? So that's got to be tough.
Yes, there's like a baseline question of like, should I try very, very hard to figure out what you're saying right now, or is this a like, let's just move along?
Yeah, reframe it.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so true.
You're like a detective. Add that to your resume, Lucinda. Yeah, you've got a lot of mad skills for your next career in life. And are there any activities that you and your dad like enjoy together? Is there a way that you can still kind of just keep some pieces of that daddy-daughter relationship?
Yeah. Yeah. This sounds totally like the opposite of what I was just saying, but we're able to talk, meaning like we're able to relate, I guess, like we always have been. And like loves Bob Dylan, like knows every Bob Dylan lyric. And I just somehow ended up the same way. Like, so we both love Bob Dylan.
Well, music, it can be a real
Music.
power between people to connect because that's bringing emotions for you and emotions for him, and that levels the playing field. I love that.
Yes. Like I could say like any quote or, sing a verse and he would start, like
Aw,
he would jump on,
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Where do you, I mean, you, from what I understand, Lucinda, you acquired a little bit of a, oh, shit show is maybe the best word for it. Like your dad was divorced. He was not in a financial good place. He was struggling with an addiction. He was had aphasia and was struggling communicating. You're young and trying to figure out stuff. Like, where do you start? Where did you start?
God. I mean, uh, it's hard to even, I think, the first thing I knew I had to do, and there was an added urgency, I think, because he was going through a divorce.
Mm.
Like he had just filed for divorce, like the Friday before, and this was like Sunday. So I think because of the impending divorce to someone that's not my mother, you
Mm.
know, I felt a sense of like, I have to help. I have to like, I have to get him through this and I have to protect him. Because if he wants to get out of his marriage to this woman that I don't really have much emotional connection to at all, like I need to do that for him. If he can't do that, if he
Mm-hmm.
can't follow through, I need to, like, I need to be here and do this. So it was like definitely immediately a legal financial issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like I needed to get power of attorney, which thankfully so my dad was an attorney and his attorney was his partner. And so he basically showed up at the hospital with the power of attorney paperwork, and
Mm-hmm.
he
So that
did.
was good.
Yeah, yeah. And I think he really did try to explain what I was taking on, but I don't think I could really.
You weren't ready for that whole role yet. No, it was like
Yeah,
you're just helping dad get divorced at that point and making sure that he was, his next steps were okay. You hadn't identified as a
right,
caregiver. Um,
right. But I
how
signed the
long, and
paperwork.
yeah, I mean, your
You
choices were
have to.
limited. You had to.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad that you mentioned the lawyer though, because I do find like sometimes an elder law attorney or somebody that's an attorney can really, they're plugged into the community. They've done this before. They can kind of make sure, and the paperwork, getting that paperwork together is really a key thing for peace of mind, frankly. And especially like your dad later was diagnosed with vascular dementia and Parkinson's, and how that's can be harder to do once you have those kinds of a diagnosis.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Wow, I'm just realizing that we did sign all of that paperwork before any kind of diagnosis. That is
Yeah.
so important. That is so important for people to know.
Yeah. Where did you
Man,
find support? I mean, other than your dad's friend who's a lawyer, like where were you going to find help and support?
I mean, it was insane because, well, my husband was with me.
You guys were married at the time.
Yes, we got
Yeah.
married that year, like 6 months earlier or something
He
like
should have
that.
signed. I always say that when you get married, they say these like vows that take about 5 minutes, but it really should like list out everything. Like, I'm going to stick by your side when check this box. You have to care for your loved one. Your parent's going to move in with us, or
Yeah.
because there's so much that happens in the journey of a marriage. And yeah, I like him already, Lucinda. So he's signed up for a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny because you get married when you have no idea what is to come,
Hmm.
and you like, make those vows, and as life happens, you're just like, wow, that's real.
That, yeah, this is our hurdle. This is part of our story. It's
Right.
yeah, it's amazing. Well, and you guys are, so here you are, yeah, newly married, caregiving for dad. And I mean, how did this alter your plans for your marriage and your life together?
Oh, I mean, I think I know it. Oh man. Oh, you got me. Um,
I mean, like, were
that's
you guys thinking about buying a house or starting a family or getting a dog, or like, I don't
well,
know. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, luckily we had already bought a house, and I say luckily because, I mean, that was one of the stabilizing factors, because we were
Hmm.
able to take my dad in, and for a period of time now he's in a facility, but um, you know, I'm so glad we had already gotten married, bought a house. But of course, we wanted to start a family, and without realizing it, it delayed it delayed our starting a family.
Hmm.
And without realizing it, because it was like the last thing that I could even think of at the time. And I also didn't realize that, my clock was ticking anyway. And, I regret, and that's why I'm so passionate about younger people, being conscious of not losing their identity,
Hmm.
and not letting their lives get derailed. Um, not that, I mean, not that it's irreparable, because, now we are, back on track, because,
Yeah.
you
You have the
know,
bandwidth now to think about it, it sounds like.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I get it though, because I mean, even caring for I had my kids, they were middle school at the time. Like, I was so desperate to make my life easier to manage, and I wanted less to take care of. Like, that was kind of like my theme, is like, oh no, I don't want that. That's too much to take care of. Like, that's
Yes.
anything that would just kind of like reduce that. So I get that that would be a common thing. And I'm glad that you're,
Yeah.
now able to kind of get put some sight back on that. Is there anything you would tell the 2018 version of yourself, Lucinda? Like, what if someone's just starting out? Like, what would you tell yourself when you were first starting out with caring for dad, or someone who's back where you were then?
I would say that it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening is, I would do everything I could to normalize it for the 2018 version of myself, because I felt like I felt completely alone. And at I had nowhere to even stay in South Carolina. And then I stayed at my mom's house. She was on her honeymoon. And I just remember feeling like my husband had to come back to New Jersey for work. And I felt like I was in The Walking Dead because like I didn't see anyone except for my dad at the hospital. And then like there was no food. Like I felt like I was living in a house, like a like boarded up house that was like my lowest point.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even talk to my mom, because she was overseas. And also she could have done more to be there for me, but like at the same time it was our honeymoon, like but I
Yeah.
just felt like I was like dying or something, and I just want to normalize it. I just want to normalize it so that there's no horrible crisis, panic, anxiety, that PTSD, like, I mean, of course, it's going to be however you get that diagnosis or your loved one gets that diagnosis. Of course, that's going to be hard.
Yep.
But if someone is truly alone as a caregiver, it's like, it's traumatic. But I just want to normalize it so that there's some point of reference where a person can go, okay, this is scary, but okay, I know that this happens. And I know that there are people who have gone through this and are talking about it. And I know that there is a discussion that I can be a part of, and I won't feel alone, and I can get answers. And ultimately, it is going to be okay, and I'm going to survive.
Yeah, you need that. You need the message of hope because otherwise it's too heavy. And I'm imagining this is what prompted you to start iAlly. So tell us about iAlly.
Yes. So iAlly is, we're actually just about to launch the mobile app. Um, it's a secure community and marketplace for, especially for millennial family caregivers. But obviously we're like not discriminatory at
Yeah,
all.
you're not going to kick anybody out. That's what I say about my daughterhood circles. It's like, listen,
Uh,
you can be a man, you can be taking care of a spouse. I'm not kicking, oh, sorry, we don't serve you here. But you do have to kind
yeah,
of find your niche, but at the same time, like a lot of what
yeah.
you offer can be helpful to other people. So I can appreciate that. But it's yeah, you want to make it more for the people who kind of went through what you went through. So I respect that.
Right. Because that's what I can speak to. Like you
Mhm.
said, like that's what that the unique needs that come with being someone who has no support system and
Mhm.
doesn't even, can barely support themselves. um,
So I think maybe I got this fact off of somebody else, maybe it was your clubhouse that you spoke on, but a quarter of our total family caregivers are millennial caregivers. So if there's 53 million family caregivers, then 25% of those, somewhere in that ballpark, like more than people think. I think
yes,
people think caregivers are
yes.
like
That's the
ancient.
problem.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the problem, is that it's just, I read somewhere like, yeah, the idea that we have of a caregiver is such a stereotype that is
Hmm.
like, it's so not helping anyone. Like people think of of people that are, well, people think of a woman. I think it's a 47-year-old woman is what they think of. But that's just not helpful
Mm-mm.
because, like you said, the millions, and
Millions.
that's why that's why it was so horrible for me and anyone else young without support going through this, is that they're like, what's wrong with me that I'm having to deal with this? Because like none of my friends' parents are sick yet or dying yet. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you can say it.
Oh, okay,
We
what
can
the
be,
fuck?
yeah, we can be explicit. So I ally, like, what would people find there? I'm gonna, of course, link to it in the show notes. But why would someone come to I ally?
So the experience is really awesome and I'm really excited. Um, Basically, you come to iAlly based on what your needs are. You will get, a different experience.
It's personalized.
So,
I like
oh
it.
yeah, yeah. So there's the community, which is, it's like a social feed, a social media feed. But what's so great is that we're separate from Facebook and,
Yeah.
Twitter and everything. So there's a level of security and privacy. And then, if someone is really overwhelmed and has no idea what they need, sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I mean, for someone like that, we have a partner. It's a company called Whole Care Concierge, and they're actually millennials, these two young women who are nurses and were burnt out and formed this company. And basically they help families and family caregivers. And so in our partnership, they are going to help, guide users who are onboarding into iAlly, help them figure out what they need. So if they need, a telehealth provider, like
Right.
they can say this is available, and mental health and therapy and even text therapy and financial coaching, and even making sure that they have the legal stuff in place and that they even know what the legal stuff is, and all of that.
I like it. It fast tracks them to the resources, and I think it's very practical and pragmatic. It sounds like it's iAlly is going to offer, this practical tools to kind of help navigate someone's journey, but then also the emotional support that you wish you had with the sense of community, and the marriage of
Right.
that is going to be powerful. And you've created essentially, which I think, Lucinda, this is why we connect so well, is like you created what you wish existed for you, and I've created what I wish existed for me. And there's the thing that's amazing about it is like there's space for all of us, because this is a freaking huge problem and it's
Yes.
getting bigger. And it's going to take, people like us and technology to help it scale, because care can't wait for the government and programs, and we don't have time for that. We're gonna have to like figure this out on our own.
Yeah. And like the thing is, I remember knowing that like in my gut, and that's why I started iAlly. It was this feeling of like, if we can't depend on the government, the healthcare system, or even our own families, in many cases, then we need to at least depend on each other
Mm-hmm.
and have each other's backs and get each other through this. And because that's right, we can't we can't depend on, we can't wait for solutions. No, like white knight is coming. So you're so right.
Unfortunately, there's no magic pill to, to be, supermodel, and there's no white knight for caregiving. So I'm sorry to rain on your listeners' parade today, but this is what we got. So let's talk about self-care for a few minutes. So I know
Yeah.
in hearing you speak too that you were talking about how, we want to feel youthful and we want to incorporate and infuse some time to be childlike and to play. So what does that look like for you? Like how do you infuse that?
So okay, so on my like bachelorette like party night, um actually my brother was there, which just goes to show like how close we were. Um
Yeah.
yeah. Um we so at one point there was like an option of like, should we go out to another bar or should we go home? And they were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to go home and play a game. Like that's how much like I love playing games and
What kind
being
of
like
games? I love
an
to play
idiot.
games. What kind of games do you like to play?
So my favorite game is, I don't know if it's called Celebrity or it could be called like
Oh,
Salad Bowl or
yes, the name game is what we call it in my where you
yes,
everybody thinks of three names, you put it in a bowl. The first round is
different.
words,
Yeah.
second round is one word, third round charades. Is that how you play?
Yes.
I
Yes.
did a TikTok on this because I don't think a lot of like I will put it in the show notes for people who don't know how to play the name game, but you call it celebrity.
Celebrity and also Salad Bowl. At some point,
I
someone called it
love it.
Salad Bowl because you could do more than just names. You could do a like you could write down like and this is where I can get like outrageous. You could write down like you know, losing your virginity.
Oh, we need to do
Because
it with we need to play with you to learn we only use names. They can be dead,
yes,
alive, or cartoons, but we need to be, yeah, like losing your
we should
virginity. Yes, I
combine
like it.
rules. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like kind
because
of like oh, Cards Against Humanity meets the name game.
yes, totally,
I
totally.
like
Because
it.
it can get pretty raunchy, but then it's like just so funny to watch, your friends like try to act these things out, or it's like that's when I'm having like the most fun.
Hmm. I love it. And yeah, you're having a good time when your cheeks hurt from laughing so
Yes.
hard. So, or
Yeah, or you cry from laughing. Yeah.
that is awesome. I love that you wanted to do that on your bachelorette party too. Like,
I know. It just shows like that's like, my I don't know, like just feeling like it's just silly, just feeling silly
hmm,
even is better than like going out and being like, woo,
yeah. Do
good
you still do
parent.
do you still play a lot of games? Like, do you have friends over? Do you and your hubby play games together? Or
It's definitely gone, downhill. Um, we we try to like my husband and I will try to play like Monopoly or bananagrams.
I
Have
love
you?
bananagrams.
Oh
Yes.
my God. You could play bananagrams by yourself, even sort of.
Yep.
But it's like, I think because of the pandemic, um, I don't think I've played Salad Bowl slash the name game in like over a year or more.
Well, maybe
That's
for your birthday or some fun day coming up, that would be. Sometimes I know, like for me, it's like I just tell them what I want to do because this is what I want to do for my day. Could be
Yeah.
fun. But my son just got me, I had played Words with Friends long
Oh my
time
God.
ago, but my son just got me, I re-downloaded the app. So he's like, do you guys want to play Words with Friends? And when your kid asks you to play, you basically are like, especially when he's in college and I'm like, oh, he wants to do this with me. Okay. The answer
You're
is
like,
yes.
yes.
Yes. So that's been my recent little, and I feel like that's intellectual self care. So I like
Yeah,
to be a producer in life and productive, but I also practice what I preach with the self care, and so that is helping my brain, those word games and things. So,
that's true.
what other
Yeah.
kinds of self care do you do, Lucinda?
Self-care has been like the biggest area of obstacles and growth ultimately for me. At first I was like, I don't need self-care, which is
How'd that work? Yeah.
laughable.
How'd that work out for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I got completely burnt out. Um, and then I felt like, what is self-care? Like bubble baths? Like, screw that.
I don't like a bubble
But
bath.
I've never liked bubble baths, so why would I think that bubble baths would be what I had to do? That's so silly. So like,
Well,
it's
that's the marketing part of self care. Yes. It
yes,
looks differently for everybody. So, for me, I like to read books and I like to go for a walk and I like to pet my dog and I like to watch Netflix and I like to play Words with Friends. Like, I like to do yoga and Peloton. Like, it can be different for anybody.
exactly. It's like it's whatever is like that thing that you don't even think about it because you just like love doing it. So you don't
Hmm.
even think about it as like a thing that you can do. Like I play games on my phone all the time.
What are your games that
And
you like?
oh my God. Okay, there's this talk about brain training games. There's an app called Peak. It's Peak.
Okay.
And I'm so addicted to it. Like it's like the same games, but like there's such a high ceiling to how like to the achievements you can get. And it's
Hmm.
like the areas are like memory,
Hmm.
language. So there's lots of crossword situations.
Love it.
There's focus, problem solving, which is my worst one because it has math in it. Um,
That's
mm,
good. It's getting your brain working. I was gonna say the other thing that I'm into
yeah.
is the Wordle and the mini crossword from the New York Times.
Oh, really?
Yes, you can play the Wordle every day. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know Wordle, but
There's a
just
mini
because
crossword too, like a little mini one that's free. Um,
and it's in the New York Times.
it's if you just do, I'll link to it in the show notes. But if you do New York Times
Okay.
mini crossword puzzle, it'll come up. But I could talk about games and stuff with you all day long. Well, let's
Yeah.
let's dive into the lightning round because I got to get a couple of questions into you. But
Oh my
the
God.
journal, the time flies. I know when we're talking together here. Let's see. What do I want to know, Lucinda? What object in your home brings you comfort?
My blanket that is furry, or I mean, it's fake fur, but it's like literally it's just blanket,
You're
like furry
snuggly.
blanket.
I love
Yeah.
it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, how about, um, what have you done lately that makes you proud of yourself?
Oh, ooh. Um, okay. Truth time. Um, I take some medicine, which there's no shame in
Hey,
this,
I
especially
take medicine. If we're doing, I take anxiety medicine.
really.
Yes.
What do you take? I mean, I don't
I
know if you want to
oh,
say.
I don't care. It's I take Zoloft.
Oh, nice. Okay, I take Lexapro.
Okay.
And
And it's okay. It's okay.
it is so okay. It is so okay. But I still like, I think I still feel the stigma, but only to myself, like not on anyone else.
I hear you. I mean,
But
I've been struggling for years thinking maybe I can come off of this. Maybe this, maybe I'm okay now. Maybe, but then I'm like, it's kind of just like my vitamin. Like I take vitamins, I take other things. Like if this is working, why rock the boat? So I have this self-talk with
yes.
myself all the time.
Yep. Yeah. So in thinking about getting pregnant, I, um, you know, was looking into like, I was like, oh my God, like, what if I have to like stop my medication? Like, that's going to be really hard and awful.
Hmm.
But then I found out that Lexapro is safe.
I'm sure you're not the only person that has struggled with that, and they've figured this out. So what a relief! I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Oh my God, such a relief. But whether I think I'm just proud of myself for confronting this because I was afraid because I definitely, it's working. I need it and I want it. I was scared to even ask. So I'm proud of myself for just even facing my medication and my body and having that conversation with myself and my doctor.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for being vulnerable. And I think it's important that people realize that sometimes I think people look at the outside, they're like, oh, she's got her stuff together. And it's like, look, people, this is what we just show to the world. But there's a
Yeah.
lot, the human body is very complex and we are all are a work in progress. Um,
Yes, it's true.
Lucinda, is there anything that you wish that we would have talked about, parting words of wisdom, and then how do people connect with you?
Oh man, something I wish we talked about. Just tell your story, no matter what it is. Tell your truth. Don't feel shame. Don't feel there is stigma in society, and we can't help that, but we can change the conversation together if enough of us are vulnerable, like you said, and admit, like, I love how you went there with me. I mean,
Where else do you want to go? We can go a lot of places together. So, yeah, no, you're good. It's like, I mean, you just kind of come to a point in your life, I think, where you're like, I'm making a decision to just put it all out there. And, you can either,
yeah,
to know me is to love me. Someone had said that before. And I love that. It's like I said, it would be boring if we were all the same. So tell your truth.
yes,
I love that. And
yeah.
where do people connect with you, Lucinda?
So you can go to i-ally.com. You can email me at lucinda@ially.com. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Lucinda Koza or Lucinda Rogers Koza. Yeah, pretty much. I think I know iAlla is on all the socials as iAlla Inc. So
Yes, we'll link to all
yeah.
of it in the show notes so that people can connect. So whether you're a millennial or you're just looking for more support in the sense of community and want to feel more youthful, which who doesn't want that, then ILI
Sure.
can be there for you. And Lucinda, thank you for coming on today and just being vulnerable and sharing. And I think a lot of people are going to extract a lot of things from your story and get connected to some great support resources. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you so much. You always make me I always learn something from like every time I talk to you. And it's not because you're like older than me or some crap like that. I don't want you to like take it that way
Yeah.
at all. But it's like you're just so comforting and wise, and it's your energy is calming. And sometimes I feel
Aw.
like I'm like all over the place, like "Ugh." So it's just really lovely. So thank you.
Thank you. Very sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.